Yeah, it's wrong.
Okay. uh, s- so yeah, I wasn't sure. Basically, kind of. So I hadn't really came asked me or Payne asked me yesterday to give a talk, and I have a sort of a rough sketch of what wanted to talk about, but it's basically just going to be a bit of an improvisation, like a jazz.
Yeah, you're a
So
jazz musician,
so so yeah. First of all, I just want to say thanks for giving me the opportunity to give a talk and
you can have plenty of these opportunities.
I really put my foot in it.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and it's great to be here with you guys on this retreat. Like it's really a privilege, and yeah, I thought I'd basically talk just a little bit about myself. Maybe some of you know some of my story, and some of you don't. And um, I've been practicing for quite a long time, and it's been quite a long journey getting to this point, really. And I just wanted to kind of share maybe some of that with you guys. And yeah, some of the things I've picked up on the way regarding Dharma practice, and at the moment, yeah, I'm actually in two sanghas, at the moment, which is interesting. uh, and yeah, maybe if there's some things I can share from my experience with Dharma Mind, things that are maybe different, um, that might be helpful, for people. And also what's been going on for me these last few months, I mean, it's been really life changing, kind of finding open heart.
Hmm.
Um, and it came at the couldn't have come at a better time, really, to be totally honest. It was amazing the way how it all worked out. It was just wow, how did all this happen? That I actually found open heart and Pima just at the right time, when basically I needed it, and a lot of our sangha in Dharma Mind need help too. So um, but yeah, so I started practicing. I've had a fairly settled life. I mean, I grew up in Dublin, um, fairly good, a bit of a SWAT in school, a bit of a teacher's pet probably when I was a kid. At this, and my family life is quite stable. I've got two brothers and a sister. Nothing nothing nasty happened in my childhood. Nobody died, nobody got sick or anything, or no major turbulence really. But at the same time, I was, I did feel the usual insecurities that I think a lot of kids feel when they're growing up. Trying to find their way in the world, wondering what's life all about, and how do I fit into it, and so yeah, so yeah, I suppose that a pretty average, normal life for a kid. I do remember experiencing a lot of loneliness as a child, especially in both primary and secondary school actually, and that sort of shifted for me when I learned, picked up guitar at the age of 17. It was, that was kind of life changing for me. I got really serious about that, sort of playing music with other musicians, and you know, I found some way of expressing the stuff that was inside me really, and just kind of and the inspiration that kind of came out of just listening to really professional and talented musicians just kind of really gave me such a huge boost actually. Um, and it was actually when I was 24 that I discovered the Dharma. It was basically I did a year-long course in jazz music, and at the end, a bass player teacher, really really good teacher, he just told me about this book called Effortless Mastery, and it was basically a book about how to just be in the moment and play your instrument, how to just not get involved, just be sort of be in the sort of eye of the hurricane, you know what I mean, while all this music was happening around you, and just learn to play your instrument and just be in the zone. And that really was that was life changing for me reading that book, because that was my first taste of wow, there's this thing called the Dharma. There's a way out of this insecurity that I felt my whole life, I've carried with me, and not had a way to get out of really. Although music helped, but I knew there was still more, to work with. And so that was my first taste of the Dharma. And pretty soon, at the end of that book, there was this guided CD of uh, meditating, how to get into the zone, how to relax first of all, and then how to just work with these difficult emotions, insecurities, the fears that musicians have, jealousies about other musicians, feeling a competitiveness and negativity towards oneself as a musician, and a lot of other things, but that really that was amazing, because just the sense of peace I got from listening to that, and it was wonderful. And so soon after that, I started meditating. I was with the Tree Rattan for about 4 years, and that's where I heard first of all about this thing called awakening, stream entry, and that was like I'd never ever heard about that before in my life, and it was, and it was this sort of irreversible shift on the way to Buddhahood. Um, as and that was kind of talked about a lot in the Tree Rattan at the time, because this teacher had actually just well, not a teacher at the time, but a person had written a book that was published by the Tree Ratana called Record of Awakening, which was the account of a guy, my first teacher, who had at the age of about 20, sorry, 30, maybe 35 or so, he'd gone to Sri Lanka to be, to practice Theravadan Buddhism, and he had awoken after about a year or two, about a year I think, practicing there, and then opened some bhumis as well, there in Sri Lanka, and so that was kind of very. There was a lot of discussion about this book in the Tree Rattan at the time, because nobody had ever really given such a clear account of awakening, and so. And he was, at the time. So that's how I basically heard about this person called Aloka, and after about 4 years in the Tree Ratana, and pretty soon after that, I became a student. Started taking Dharma practice seriously, because I wasn't really that serious about it. I was kind of meditating every day, and I was moderately serious about my practice, but it wasn't. It wasn't the number one thing in my life, really. Anyway, Aloka, yeah, he was awakened, and he was a very solid teacher. We kind of went on retreats every month. He was very good at grounding people, giving them solid dharmic advice. He's a very solid teacher. His kind of teaching, his tradition was Zen plus Theravada, sort of a kind of an unusual mix. And I was with him for about 15, how many years was it? Maybe 12 years. He died 3 years ago, so about 12 years, with Aloka. And I got I got a huge amount out of the practice with him, because he debunked a lot of stuff about Buddhism for me. He simplified the practice so much, and introduced me to the spirit of Mahayana Buddhism. I started, I started running a local group in Dublin, so there was four, core of us, maybe initially 4 people, and then it kind of grew over time. So I learned, just some skillful means about running a local group, and helping people in the practice, meditating each week, and that was my practice for a long. Nothing really exciting happened until after about 7 years. I had my first glimpse of my Buddha nature, and that was wow. That was an eye opener for me. But it did take that long for that to happen. And awakening never happened actually for me, and which was interesting. And subsequently, I know why, and I'm going to maybe talk about that in a little bit. But so yeah, like I say, Aloka, in Dharma Mind is 30 people, roughly about the same size as Open Heart, and we're a bit older. You guys are pretty young, and yeah, it's a pretty committed group. People meet as often as they can. Most people are in local groups, and they have monthly retreats and four residential retreats a year. Um, and I guess what happened was that Loka died, and we continued on, you know, um, with the practice, not changing anything for about 2 years, until last just before Christmas. I started to wonder about the future of the group, and did we have a future without a teacher? Because Aloka had written this article, a spiritual plateau, which got him into a lot of trouble because it was written about the Tree Ratna, in terms of, he felt that it was a criticism of them, in that he felt that without a teacher, that it would be impossible for people to awaken. Um, and that there didn't seem to be much evidence of that at the time of the Tree Ratna, So it was a pretty hard-hitting criticism of them. And at the time, he had wanted to join him and join the Tree Ratna and be part of what they had to teach. And it just didn't work out. One of the reasons was because of this article, so I knew that myself, that I was not going to awaken without the help of a teacher. It wasn't going to happen for me. And so just about before Christmas 2017, Christmas 2016, 2017, I started looking around, and for my Google search was, what blooming does you have to be a Dharma teacher? It was ridiculous. But I just wanted to get some sort of sense of, were there teachers out there that could possibly help us, or could I awaken and maybe progress my practice to help the group, to lead the group, or to teach in the group, or what could we possibly do to move the group forward? Because basically the way we were going, we were just going to kind of hit that spiritual plateau at some point. And in fact, basically we weren't going to get any further. And in fact, what was going to happen was people were probably going to start getting themselves into difficulty with their practice, because without a teacher, sooner or later, I think people hit the rocks. They just they hit the buffers, as Locke would say, and they don't know how to deal with it. They hit some really difficult period in their practice, and without the support of wise beings, they're in real trouble. And that that was going to happen. So, like I said, I did this Google search and went on Dharma Overground, a few other forums, and I discovered this thing called the Open Heart Bhumi model, and then that led me to Open Heart, and Pima, and this amazing thing called Guidance to Awakening, and I'd never kind of consider. I'd always been taught that that basically that awakening took years and years, of really really dedicated practice, and that at some point in the future it might happen for me. And that had always been something, an aspiration I'd had in my practice since reading Aloka's book, A Record of Awakening, that someday awakening was going to happen. And to me, and that was always kind of my motivation for practice, because I did believe, I had no problem believing in the notion of rebirth, and that basically that karmically I could spend a lot of time, just lost, basically going from birth to birth to birth, never kind of escaping samsara. So the idea that somebody could actually work with a teacher for a few weeks and actually experience an awakening was a major, that was incredible to just read, actually, to be totally honest. That actually could be done. and there was something about the vibration in the website, and it was just mysterious how I found open heart. And now thinking about it, I think somebody was giving me, Padmasambhava or the Mahasiddhas or somebody were, they were just gently kind of leading me in that direction. Because as soon as I didn't have any doubts about that guidance to awakening, as soon as I read, I thought, yeah, I'm going to do this. I trust that this is going to work. It sounds crazy, but yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. And yeah, I sent Pima my email, and a couple, literally two or two, 15 days later, I awoke, and that was an amazing experience for me. I could talk, yeah, I mean, the first few days, I started some big shifts started happening to me emotionally. I let go of a lot of stuff that I was carrying at the time, a lot of emotional angst, frustration, baggage that I'd been carrying for a while. It just seemed to just completely all fall away at the start of the guidance. And then I started to have these shifts, just shifts of clarity, and shifts of yeah, just shifts in clarity, and emotional letting go. But the first few days, and then I started to get attached to all this clarity. The first few days, and Pima was like, no, focus on what's important. It's nothing to do with their side effects of this process. Focus on really looking into the subjective I, and that's what I realized subsequently was missing in my practice. My practice was very much about taming restlessness, taming the emotions, working with all these forces in my body. So I was working on the objective sense of self all the time, but I was never really looking much at this part, the part that attaches the subjective sense of I, and that was exactly what I needed to wake up. That was the missing component of my practice, that I just had to really, with cold compassion, look at this thing, this subjective sense of me, and look at it. And I needed the help of a teacher to do that properly, and to really motivate me, and get me to see it through for good. It wasn't going to happen, even if I'd had read the materials on my own and practiced it on my own. I don't think I would have had the strength to really see it through. I needed a guide. So so I'm forever grateful. For that. It was life changing. And as soon as I woke up, then I realized the potential of this for the rest of the people in the Dharma Mind group, because many people, I've known many practitioners in Dharma Mind for many of them for over 10 years, and none of them really, well, one actually it turns out did, but that's another story. But everyone else hadn't woken up. And I knew that there was massive good that this could do for Dharma Mind. So I really wanted to tell, and the idea was that I wanted to give a talk about this, but then I realized, oh God, maybe it would just, there would be too much skepticism about it, too much doubt about the fact that somebody could actually awaken in such a short space of time. So in the end, I just talked to one of the people in the group, the leader of the group, Mike, who had given authority to run the Dharma Mind group. I shared what I'd found with him, and he was like, he didn't, he was 50% wanted to believe me, 50% was skeptic about it, but thankfully he did the guidance, and then he woke up too. And then we sat down and we decided, right, what do we do about this? Because we have to tell people about this, because I mean, it'd be just so wrong not to. But at the same time, we knew that if we told everyone that, it could cause total chaos in the group. So just one by one, we're starting to tell people at the moment, and we nearly have a core group of people over the line now. So it's pretty exciting. what's happening. And, I mean, one person recently, just a few days ago, woke up, somebody I've known for 15 years, and I haven't talked to him about it yet, but I'm just so excited to talk to him because I've just felt this massive, charge from the whole experience of working, of trying to, facilitating, I suppose, these people, encouraging them to do this. It's been really very exciting these last few months, you know, trying to get people to try this guidance, just to give it a shot, um, and uh, that's something that's been a big boost to my practice over these last few months. It's just, practicing not just for myself but for other people as well. Trying to help other people, trying to move them forward. Dealing with the challenges of that. My own fears about, how are people going to react, if I share this with them. How are are they going to think I'm an idiot? Are they going to think I've lost the plot? Is it going to affect my relationship with, these people who've been my friends a long time? All the doubts and fears around that. Is it going to cause chaos in the group? Is it going to break up the group? All of this stuff. It's been something for me to really work with these last few months. But it's been amazing as well for my practice, because I genuinely feel like I'm doing something positive for the world, for my friend, for my fellow Sangha members in Dharma Mind, and it's been a massive charge to my practice, and that's kind of that. It's been I've had these last few months has been really, dramatic for my practice. I mean, I've had a lot of shifts, fairly rapid, succession, and I know for a fact that one of the reasons why all of that has happened to me is because basically my practice hasn't just been about me. It's been about other people, trying to help other people. Friends that have been around my life for a long time. Helping them has helped me a lot. It's really had a big impact on me, and it feels like my I'm practicing the right way. In other words, I'm not just practicing for myself, I'm actually practicing for others too, and doing the best I can for others, and I just kind of wanted to share how that felt. Feels really exciting, um, and yeah. So, and I don't know what the future is. I mean, maybe people in Dharma, maybe there's going to be, maybe it'll only go so far. Who knows? All I know is I just know the next step to take, and that's enough. Just let's create a platform for people to get awakened in Dharma Mind, and then when then we'll know when we get to the next place. We'll know what the next thing to do is. It's not like there's some master plan or anything like that. There isn't really, um, but I do know, the next thing is absolutely, let's help people get awakened, and I know that Aloka, if he had the two-part formula, if he had that, he would absolutely have used it, because it was something that was so, awakening changed his life, and he spent many of his years helping others in their practice to help them awaken. And if he had the two-part formula, for sure, for absolute sure, he would have used it. He would have been, sharing it with the world, no question. So my own sort of, I don't feel like I'm doing anything. I feel like I'm kind of, you're doing something that's very much in the spirit of what Dharma Mind, is about. I mean, the actual the motto, if you like, for our group is awakening to the Dharma mind, recognizing our true nature. That is the spirit and aspiration of the Dharma mind group. So it is about awakening. It is about recognizing the natural state. It's just that we didn't have, that two-part formula, that technique just wasn't available, I suppose. So yeah, and there's a lot of parallels, I think, between Dharma mind's a little bit older than Open Heart, maybe about 5 years older, but I can see some parallels, in not just in the size of the group, but also in terms of the challenges that the groups face. For example, maybe people not helping out as much as they could. We've gone through that period as well in Dharma mind, whereby the teacher just said, if you don't, you guys have to help. You have to help out more, help with the running of the practical stuff around the group. And I know there's a bit of, at the moment in Open Heart, there's, movement around that. And, it was exactly the same for Dharma mind. It's basically, the teacher said, look guys, this is your job. I shouldn't be organizing these retreats. I shouldn't be, you need to support me, and you need to help promote the group, help grow the group, run retreats, take payments, take charge of recording the talks, take charge of cooking in the retreat, all this stuff. That was, he just basically handed it off to the team, a team of people, maybe about 10 people. And it was a bit rocky for the first while, but it quickly became fairly easy to, it became like a well-oiled machine after a while. It was quite straightforward, really. So that made a big difference in Dharma, and to a local as well, because it just totally freed him up. He was like, oh, thank God, I don't have to deal with that anymore. Like, it's just, that's just gone. All I have to focus on now is teaching. So, if I can, share that we experienced that very same thing, and also supporting the teacher. Yeah. That was kind of what I wanted to talk about, really. I've sort of run out of juice a bit, but if people have any questions or anything that, or comments, or, rotten tomatoes.
I have a question.
Sure, yeah.
How did you experience after Aloka had freed up his time? Freed up, like, all the practical stuff.
The energy, it was much better, because first of all, people's practices were less selfish. Basically, they weren't just practicing. They weren't just like, expecting things to be done for them all the time. They realized there was a bigger picture for the Sangha and for each other, and the energy of the group really did change. People, and if, some people just gave nothing, and that was just, fine. Some, what can you do? But most people do something in the Dharma. They have a role. They even if it's just something small, pretty much, the majority have something that they do, and it changed the group a lot, because people realized that, their practices were less one-sided, and it made freed up Aloka so much. And then other things then came out of that, like, say, for example, we went on a pilgrimage to India. That probably wouldn't have happened, because the teacher's energies would have been too much focused on the nuts and bolts of running things. Once it freed him up, then he was able to just focus on just teaching. And that's, nothing else really. And the teachings improved. He's able to write. I think a couple of books came out of that, actually, after. But it definitely changed the energy of the group a lot. One thing we have as well as local groups, you know, nearly everybody in Dharma Mind has a local group that they practice every single week. You know, you know, they meet each other. You know, there's different cities in the UK, and we have Dublin as well, and every week they meet each other and practice face to face. You know, for 2 hours a day. You know, we meet in Dublin. We meet on Monday night, but it really does. You know, that's changed my practice a lot as well, because I've had to deal face to face with people every week. You know, newcomers who don't have a clue about practice. You know, they're just straight off the street. How do you help somebody like that? You know, showing them the posture, showing them how to meditate, how to have the correct spirit for practice. Trying to teach them, you know, the difference between Mahayana and Theravada, all the nuts and bolts about Buddhism and all this stuff. You know, I mean, and then dealing with the frustrations when people come one week and they think, oh, this is fantastic, I love this so much, and then you just never see them again. You know, they're just gone. You know, people coming and going all the time, and then also kind of telling people, you know, having to kind of correct people when things are wrong, but doing it in a skillful way so you don't get emotionally caught up in the whole being right and then being wrong. All of that stuff, it's huge. And it's very, very rewarding. I mean, wow. I mean, without that weekly hit of Dharma, my practice would be totally different. It just wouldn't have the energy. You know, it wouldn't have kind of matured in the way it did over the years. You know, it definitely wouldn't have.
So you're the organizer of the Dublin group?
There's 3 of us. Yeah.
And
yeah.
when did you start it? How long after you started practicing with Aloka?
About 2 years, something like that. Yeah. And it's been going for 10 years now. And yeah, he just suggested it to one day. You know, I said, you know, well, I can't remember, but yeah, he just said, why don't you just set up a group in Dublin? Because there were 1 or 2 other groups starting to form, and we just rented a room in a Quaker place, pretty dingy and horrible, but it was really cheap. It was like €10 a week or something stupid like that. Really cost nothing. We got some cushions and some mats and you know, some shrine things, and it was so easy to do. But it's totally changed my life. Really, really has, because I've made friends that, you know, you know, people that you can really talk to about stuff, you know, because my normal, say, college friends, you know, you can't talk Dharma with them. They just don't understand what you're talking about. Whereas, you know, some of the people I've been practicing with, you know, I've known them for like 15 years now, so it's, you could share anything with them really, yeah, it's that they're big figures in my life now, really, you know. Really good friends, and you know, over the years we've had amazing Dharma conversations. I mean, the format of the group is pretty straightforward. Like, we meditate for 40 minutes, we have a break for 20 minutes, then we watch a video for half an hour, and then we discuss it for half an hour. So it's like 2 hours. But some of the Dharma discussions that we've had over the years have been really amazing, and just the ability of people to just speak about the Dharma and just and share it has been very inspiring, actually. Yeah, really very inspiring, and also seeing kind of newcomers come along and not having any experience of the Dharma practice, starting practice, and then over the months and months starting to get what it's about, and then develop their practice until then you see them start to talk dharmically, you know, and you hear them, you know, talking Dharma and speaking with an understanding that they never had, you know, 6 months previously. That's really rewarding, you know, because they're, you know, you're saying, wow, like this practice has changed this person, you know, his life, you know, 6 months ago he was about to, I don't know, his life was a living hell, and now he's actually, you know, this person's, you know, speaking with, you know, dharmic sense about things. There's wisdom there. He's starting to understand the way he works, the way he ticks, and having a bit of space around his reactions. And it's really, really rewarding, kind of getting that feedback, and, you know, just witnessing people just speak about the Dharma, like, in that way. So I, and also just a weekly boost. We do it Monday nights, the first night of the week. It just gives you this. It's just this steady drip of water into the bucket. And over the years, yeah, it's pretty life changing. So I totally recommend that. It's amazing, just practicing with people every single week. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah,
I
yeah.
was just wondering what kind of practices you do specifically.
It's basically all silent illumination. Yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry, Hatha yoga.
Oh.
Yeah. Although I've learned a lot about Hatha yoga since coming in contact with open heart. So yeah, there's a few things we could adjust to improve it actually. Yeah, but
Quite a few, maybe.
yeah, true. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. There's so much actually. I'm really excited by what open heart, all the what you guys have is very, very special. I mean, one of the things I would say, if you haven't experienced other Dharma groups, you do not realize how lucky you are with what you have in open heart. I mean, people practice for decades before they awaken. That is genuinely what happens, and most people don't. And in terms of bhumi openings or anything like that, that is rare. Like, that's really rare. So to have the kind of level, that we have on this retreat, it's just so rare. It's just, I don't know. It's extremely, extremely rare. So I'm really excited about. Hopefully, things are gonna, work out, and that lots of people are going to get awakened and start, realizing there's a whole path after awakening, and I guess in Dharma mind, they have most people have sat in many retreats, so they have actually. It's not their practice is still. It's not wasted. It's still meditation practice. It's still meditation. They've dealt with their psychological stuff, too. But I think that awakening is going to be like bursting the dam for a lot of people, and it's just things are going to shift really, really rapidly for some of the guys in Dharma mind, because because life is very post awakening practice is very different from pre awakening practice. You don't have to deal with the little dictator anymore. He's gone. And that changes everything actually. And I'm really excited about. I mean, I know one guy, Mike. He awoke a few weeks ago, and then he had his first, his retreat, and we have this summer retreat in Trigonos in Wales for a week, and his practice has just totally blossomed. It's totally. The words he described it was like it's like the doors have been blown wide open for him. So yeah, I'm really, really excited. I think it's going to work out. Just have to, there's, it's just it's going to be interesting. It's very challenging. I mean, I don't know. I'm basically just trusting my instinct and also, other people's instincts. I think we're moving in the right direction, but it's like, it's just every day is like a new sort of, you just don't know that everything is just so uncertain, but that's what makes things exciting, I think. If it was all sort of laid out, then it would be, maybe, I don't know, it would be less exciting, I suppose. Um, uh, yeah. So does that? Yeah, you got a question, right? Oh no, you.
I ask.
Okay, you. Sorry.
I was wondering about asking something,
Yeah.
so I might just ask.
Yeah. Ask. Yeah.
Yeah, I personally, I supplement my practice sometimes with metta meditations and death meditations, uh, which I think really helps me in my everyday practice when at work and stuff. So I was thinking, one, if you had something like that, and two, if it was something you see that you might supply this sangha with, since you are into.
You mean like teach? Well, teach meditations about death in Dharma mind.
Yeah, if there are some practices.
We haven't any practices. I mean, we really only have one practice.
Yeah.
You know, it's basically Chan. So that's what we just do. So our retreats are quite different. You know, we do. You know, we sit 8 times a day, 40-minute sits, and it's basically Chan or Adi Yoga, and. But some people, we do occasionally recommend metta bhavana to some people who have like really negative relationships with themselves, and they need to just be kind to themselves, but we don't really do that on retreat. Although if they want to, they can, I suppose. Do that metta bhavana while others are doing silent illumination. But in terms of death, no, we haven't. Yeah, we don't have any practices. But yeah. Although Aloka has constantly over the years reminded us that that the opportunities to practice are rare, and always make use of retreats and any opportunity that you have. You never know when your last day is going to be. Yeah. But yeah, like I just kind of wanted to. It's like when you have somebody in your life, for somebody a long time, and then they awaken. It's like the charge that you get from it is absolutely amazing. It's like Pima and me were discussing it on the plane. You're connected to different lineages. Through different teachers, but everyone in the sangha is also connected, via sort of it's like a spider's web or a mesh. And when somebody close to you actually awakens, you actually feel the charge of it. It actually gives your own practice a boost, I think. So I'm hoping that Loka, wherever he is, once we get when the sangha awaken, that I'm sure that he'll feel it too. Yeah. How much time do we have left?
Oh, there's still time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So I've got a lot of things to say.
It happens to me all the
Yeah.
time. Mostly.
Yeah.
I mostly have that feeling.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very good that you run out of things to say. Otherwise, it will be unbearable in the end. just would continue 3 hours.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
sure.
this is perfect.
I couldn't talk for that.
Maybe we'll sit for a few minutes
Sure.
before the break.
Sure.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, John.
Thanks a lot.